welcome to another episode of Trauma to Triumph. My name is Lynn. I'm the host. Today we'll be talking about how to avoid toxic relationship and have healthy emotional love. Our speaker today is Riana Mile. She is love recovery coach. She's the author of Love Beyond Your Dreams. Hello, Riana. I'm honored to have you.
Thank you.
So when we talk about toxic relationship, we cannot go without talking about childhood trauma. Can you share with us how childhood trauma affect adults in dating, relationship, or marriage?
Sure. There's a lot to tell you, though. A lot, 2 years of research worth. But basically what, in summary, is that us children are a product of our environment, right? And the research shows that childhood trauma goes through at least 3 generations. So I'll be sharing the top 10 traumas that I've seen in over 21 years of being a psychotherapist and a global life and love trauma recovery coach. The issue is, as a child, you learn separate coping mechanisms that help you in a day-to-day basis to survive, to comfort yourself, to soothe yourself, or to avoid toxic scenarios or beatings or yelling or whatever would be coming your way as a child that could be negative in your life. And you adapt these routines and ways of thinking and doing and being, and they become so normalized that you do bring them into your adult love relationship. And this is why 9 out of 10 people struggle in love relationships, because these childhood wounds or adverse events have not been healed or changed. And they all come from the unconscious. So they were so well practiced and rehearsed that we have to then go into that unconscious and heal those wounds and make you fully consciously aware of what you say, what you do, how you act, that it is for the good of all. That's a brief summary.
Okay, so you mentioned about the top 10 childhood trauma. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, I'll be glad to go into them. As I go over this list, I do want to make sure our listeners know that this is not about blame or shame. We're not looking to blame your parents at this stage of your life. We're trying to understand and find spiritual forgiveness. And it's not about any guilt or shame upon yourselves. Again, as a child, you're young, you're innocent. You just created these coping mechanisms to survive whatever pain you were enduring at that time. And these events could have happened inside or outside of your home. So the first one is, did your caregivers have any addiction issues? So we're talking drugs, alcohol, sex, meaning you knew your parent was a cheater, porn use, gambling, hoarding, spending, eating, gaming, TV watching, workaholism. The last recent one I've added to the list is social media addiction, where your parents are kind of ignoring you and they're always on the machines. Okay, so those are the traumas around addiction. The second one is any verbal trauma. So that could have been watching mom and dad yelling and screaming in the household, them yelling and screaming at you. It could be verbal put downs or slights, like saying, take that outfit off, you look too fat in that. Anything that's a put down, not hearing compliments or feeling like your parents were excited about your efforts. So not getting compliments at all, or even hearing the words, I love you. These are all very important things for a child to heal, to grow into healthy self-esteem. Third one is emotional abuse or neglect. The fourth one is any physical beatings, any sexual rape, molestation, and those again, inside or outside of the home, happening to you when you were very young. The next one is quite an important one that we call abandonment issues. And that trauma is, there's 2 different types. There's fault and no fault abandonment. So no fault abandonment would be if they happen to die early. Of course, that's not their fault, but it still feels like a lot of abandonment for the child to cope with. If you're family, your parents are going off to war to defend your country, or they happen to travel a lot due to their job. This is how they support the family. And that one I had with my father being on the road all the time because he was an FBI and a CIA agent in America. I don't know, my dad was James Bond. We found out years later, but it does make it an impression on a child when they're worried, where is their parent and are they coming home? A fault abandonment would be if you were never in that child's life, if you were in that child's life until the couple couple broke up and then you rarely see the child, or it's inconsistent, or you make a promise to see them and you don't, deliver on that promise. And then the other one would be an emotional type of abandonment. So they may still be in the home, but they're not emotionally connecting. They don't go to your athletic games. They don't support you in school at your school plays or at your art shows. They just barely get involved. That's an emotional form of abandonment. Okay, the next one, trauma number 6, is if you were adopted, part of the foster care system, or you had to go live in another home because your parents couldn't take care of you, or they lost their home. That could even be a grandparent or an aunt, but that's very hard to be misplaced like that. Trauma number 7 is the one that most people readily available. They readily can identify that one, and that would be attachment to any kind of personal feeling of unworthiness, not fitting in, not being good enough. So trauma number 7 is personal trauma. You could have been bullied as a child for being overweight or skinny and gawky and being called the nerd. You might have had a medical condition like asthma where you couldn't be part of the cool kids or the sports games, and just kind of felt like an isolator, just feeling different. They could have been an LGBTQ child or teen and trying to come out, not feeling accepted or being bullied for that. They could have been a different race or culture, or being in a prominent Caucasian school and being like the only African American girl in that school and not fitting in her mind. So these are a lot of different scenarios that could apply under trauma number 7. Trauma number 8 is around sibling trauma. You could have been bullied by your sibling. They could have been born with a medical issue, therefore commanding more time from mom and dad, or most commonly, they were perceived by you to be the golden child. So the favored of mom or dad because they were the athletic one, or more handsome or beautiful, or the smarter child. And you just felt like they were getting all the accolades and attention. Trauma number 9 is very important and happening to all of us right now. It is a 2-part trauma piece because I had to bring one from the later list. There is a longer list, more than 10. And what used to sit up there in that later list was community trauma. And community trauma, when I was a young girl, I'm a baby boomer, was not very prevalent. Today, it's rampant. So this is our COVID epidemic going on right now. It's affecting everyone around the world of all ages, men and women, no prejudice. But look at what's for our little people are going through, our children needing to wear masks, can't be in school, can't play with their friends, afraid we're going to catch something and die, or mom and dad might die if they go to work. It's a very fear-based community worldwide pandemic, and this is causing a lot of trauma right now. Community trauma also is our school shootings, our mass shootings, loss of our homes by flood, fire, or other acts of Mother Nature, and are very devastating. The other part of 9 is family trauma. So you see, when there's a community trauma, very often it affects the family. So we have people in food lines and losing their jobs and not getting income when their business was booming before this. So this is very much disrupting a lot of families, or everybody's working at home. So there's a lot of infighting and couples breaking up at this stage. Other family traumas could be growing up around lack, not enough money. Again, this could be part of the COVID reaction. If a parent's incarcerated, moving a lot, if you're a military family, every 2 to 4 years where your children have to go to a different school. So there is a lot in family and community trauma, trauma number 9. And we're all a part of that. So if you think you don't have any traumas, guess what? You have trauma number 9. And the research shows at least 90% of people have at least 1 to 3 of the traumas. So you know you have that one. Okay. And the last trauma is mental health issues in the people that raised you, mom or dad. So the baby boomers, we didn't really see our parents going to counseling. So we kind of have to guess. The 2 that are most difficult for children to navigate through is bipolar and borderline. So bipolar is manic depressive. Depression can show up as extreme fatigue, emotionally checking out, or even anger. And the manic phase could be a gambling spree, eating binge, spending binge, anything like that, which often then spirals to the depression part. And I think borderline personality is really the most difficult. This I describe as extreme moodiness, fast trigger anger. They get angry over things that most people would never get angry over. And it is like a walking on eggshells feeling for a child, because when that parent's good, they're great, but when they're bad, they're really horrid. So it's a scary home to be in if you have a borderline personality parent. So those are the top 10s that I've identified in all my work. So all these different populations of all these different ages, races, and cultures have experienced these main top 10 traumas. And this is how I developed the childhood trauma checklist with the top 10.
Okay, so these are a sample of top 10 childhood trauma. I just want to go back a little bit, just clarify what is childhood trauma means to you.
Okay, well, the childhood trauma is experiencing any of these events that I have gone through, right? And the childhood trauma has become part of your unconscious being or your psyche, your soul, your brain absorbs trauma. Your brain and your body cells absorb trauma, and it stays with you until you can get it out of your body. As a matter of fact, the Kaiser Permanente group did a study with over 17,000 women who were overweight, people that were overweight, and they said, due to childhood traumas, right? So they had childhood traumas, and their study really focused on illness and disease in life if you had unhealed childhood trauma. So they studied these. Their checklist was quite different than mine. They did not have abandonment on there. They did not have personal trauma like bullying. They didn't have the death of a parent. They didn't have, many other the things that I saw that are on my list. Their list called the ACE test, Adverse Childhood Events Test, was much different than mine. And then the CDC actually came out later adding these things. And I'm like, well, great. I'm glad those are on there, because I saw so many kids that were traumatized by the scenarios that I name in my top 10 list. But it was an interesting study that you all should take a look at, because it says if your trauma is unhealed, you get early illnesses, chronic fatigue, irritable bowel syndrome, depression. All my people have ongoing anxiety when they come to me for coaching. These are mental health issues, physical issues, the extra weight gain. So they have early illnesses and they die earlier if their trauma is not healed. And then it goes through 3 generations as well. So if you have childhood trauma, your parents had it, and not likely their parents had it. So until you learn to, eliminate the childhood trauma response and the traumas in your life and get emotionally healthy, then there's a lot of different ways you're impacted in life, love, career, how you feel about yourself, your self-love. And you can have a whole different, incredible life when the childhood trauma piece is healed.
Childhood trauma is any events or past events. So what you experienced through your childhood.
What you experienced through your childhood.
Negatively, emotionally affecting you, that impacting your life as an adult.
Today, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're also talking about 20 toxic personality types.
Okay. So in my book, Love Beyond Your Dreams, Break Free of Toxic Relationships to Have the Love You Deserve. It's a 400-page book that is a culmination of 2 years of research in this topic. And it's 4-section book. So the first section mentions 20 different personality types that can break your heart. Another, people that had experienced toxic childhood trauma and have not healed it. So my clients, when they come to me, whether they're singles or couples, straight or LGBTQ, men and women, I treat everyone that has unhealed childhood trauma from 16 to 76. We look at first, what they experienced. Now, most people that have come to me have been in a toxic marriage or 2 to 3 toxic relationships. And they see that they keep repeating, getting the same type of person that's not emotionally healthy. And they can't figure out why. It's one of those, you don't know what you don't know. Well, their childhood trauma is not healed. We call this relationship repetition syndrome. So people who have toxic, unhealed childhood trauma attract that also into their life. Other partners with toxic, unhealed childhood trauma. So these people are the ones that can break your heart because their trauma is not healed and they need work around that. So here are some of them. The top one I say is the charming con artist. These are your antisocial personality disorders that include sociopaths who use people for pleasure or profit or status and lifestyle. And I can go into that deeper. And psychopaths who are sociopaths and narcissists who kill. Next down as dangerous is the emotional manipulators. There's the malignant narcissists, and there's a wide range of narcissists from healthy narcissists to malignant. We're talking about the malignant narcissist, the borderline, and the bipolar personality types. Then there's other ones I just made up names for, like the Peter Pan man. This is that man that refuses to grow up, needs to hang out with his buddies, slug beer, get drunk, and won't accept responsibilities as a man. He still wants to be living that college lifestyle. Then there's the mama's boy, the one that is so attached to his mother. He always puts mom first and not the wife first. It's amazing that, they will change on a dime if their mother wants something, and usually she'll want something if he sees him getting too attached to the woman he's dating or the wife. And it's really causes a wedge in a marriage. Then there's one I call the mother hater. This is someone that hates his mom, has no respect, and it might be called for. That might have been a very abusive alcoholic mother. So he's never healed that relationship. The problem when it's not healed is that they tend to be very difficult partners with their women. They can be very demanding. They can expect perfectionism in their woman. She's got to be exactly perfect this way or another way, because they didn't have that loving bond with a mom. So when they finally choose a woman, and they'll pick a lot of women apart, but when they finally choose one, they're very demanding and very much perfectionistic around what he wants from her. It's a very difficult person to love. There's the habitual liar, and the liar comes from someone that had trauma number 7 and trauma number 2 and 4. So let's say there's a young boy that goes off to school. He gets into trouble. There's a phone call home. He knows he's going to get beat when he comes home. So he embellishes this big story that he got beat up and he was teased when really he's the bully, blaming somebody else so he doesn't get beat. Well, the father believes him and he saved himself from getting hit. So this is learning, wow, if I lie, I get away with things. And they learn to become habitual and expert liars, because something in their childhood they were trying to avoid, and lying helped them to avoid the pain. The chronic cheater, and there's cheating, either emotional cheating, like trying to connect with a lot of people on, Facebook, or you're hidden on a dating app, something like that, where you just feel like you're always seeking other attention. This is often someone that did not get attention or felt gawky and awkward as a young person, and they might have grown up to look attractive, and they're always seeking, outside attention to prove that they're pretty enough or handsome enough. So that's someone seeking that. And then there's the physical chronic cheater. That's kind of the same thing, but just worse. No boundaries to the marriage. They're seeking female. Let's say it's a man's cheating. They're seeking female attention to build up their ego and self-esteem. Very often I work with very professional, successful women who excel in business but struggle in love. And this is one of the most common stories I hear. They probably married someone who was not as successful as them. So that man will go out and choose a woman that has nothing to have an affair with. So his ego is built up and makes him feel more like a man, because he doesn't feel so manly being with a more accomplished, successful woman, although he chose her. So it's just, again, psychological. There's the angry and critical partner who's a poor communicator. They can't express their needs, or they shut down, which we call passive aggressive. This is the person that was afraid to speak up when they were young. If they expressed their feelings, they would often get beat or screamed at by mom and dad. So they learned to be safe. I just have to shut up and say nothing. And they're afraid to speak for days. So this is the passive aggressive adult. Then there's the abusive ones who emotionally abuse you, physically abuse you, verbally. There's sexual abuse, there's financial abuse and control. So again, these are all people that seek and crave control because as a child, they did not have enough control in their environment. It was chaotic. There was a lot of fighting. Those that yell and are angry learn that that's how we solve problems. We scream at each other. That becomes normalized. So all these are a result of childhood trauma.
Some of them you mentioned experience a childhood trauma and overcome and thrive, and other become narcissism and sociopath. Can you explain the difference between narcissism and sociopath?
Yeah, well, let's talk about the differences in why do some people have mental health issues and some severe ones and others survive. Because I look at the scale from 1 to 10, right? First of all, how many traumas do they have? The psychopath usually has 10 out of 10. Then I look at the severity levels from 1 to 10. How severe were these things that they've experienced? So usually the sociopath and the psychopath have 9 to 10 traumas with severity levels at 9 and 10. Getting beat every day, alcoholic parent every day, parent takes off, they don't know where they are. It's severe trauma and over again. It could be one incident, it could be a devastating rape that occurred, but the ones that tend to have the most severe mental health issues are high on the scale, a lot of traumas, and a high severity level. So that's why. Okay, so let's go into narcissist first to describe what that is, and then you'll see the difference between narcissist and sociopath. Again, I mentioned there's a wide range between a healthy narcissist and a malignant narcissist. The malignant narcissist is higher on the scales, right? Higher traumas, 8 to 10, higher severity levels. And the healthy narcissist may be a little bit self-focused, but they don't hurt anyone. They can share, they give to others, they emotionally can express their needs and help be emotionally connected to other people. So they try to meet their loved ones' needs, but they also can be self-focused at times. Okay, so again, it's the severity levels of what they experience. So some of the signs of narcissists are, and we're talking now about the malignant narcissist, okay? They seek excessive admiration. And when I'm going through this list, I would like you all to think of the top political figure in our country that is no longer in position. And you will see all these signs are there of the malignant narcissist, and there's many sociopathic signs as well. But he was a child of severe childhood trauma. So the correlation is there. Okay, so seeks excessive admiration, has a sense of entitlement, that they deserve something, and they are adamant about it. They don't see the other side of the story, and they hate rules. They break the rules all the time. They're preoccupied with fantasies of power, success, ideal love, or beauty. They're always trying to find the most beautiful woman, if this is a man. And they better be perfect. And that's, again, hard for a woman to live up to, especially over time. They take advantage of others for their own gain, right? They're jealous and controlling. They lack empathy towards anybody else or anybody else's pain. They're extremely selfish, materialistic, and they only worry about themselves. So those are some signs of the malignant narcissist. All of those fit our ex-politician. Second, signs of the sociopath or the con artist. So here we go. Again, a sociopath uses people for pleasure or profit or lifestyle and status. Okay, so they're master manipulators and con artists. They're devious, they're cunning, and they can be outright cruel. They are excellent with their words, like Hitler, convincing thousands and thousands of people to follow his malicious, damaging ways. He is a sociopath and a psychopath. Because remember, the psychopath is a sociopath who kills. They're jealous and controlling. They isolate their partner from family and friends because they don't want them to be influenced by anybody else. Because very much outsiders can see the mental health issues, but they don't want them trying to convince them to leave them, right? So they hold on. They're very controlling. They expect perfectionism in their mates. They're impulsive. They're prone to several addictions, especially sexual addiction, alcohol, pills, cocaine, anything that keeps them on a high. They're ruthless and emotionless. There's no remorse. You don't see them ever apologize. And this, again, was classic. We just saw this a couple of weeks ago. No apology, no remorse. They're moody, difficult, and demanding people, and they lack consciousness, right? They crave money and status and power, and they'll use others to get it, no matter the outcome for the others. They don't care, but they will talk you into doing what they want them to do. They're a loner. They have few friends. If they do, very often those friends are subservient and look up to them like a god. And they often are toxic, unhealthy emotionally people as well. They have inconsistent and poor work history. And again, you don't have to have all of these to be diagnosed the sociopath. You just have to have a few of them. Okay, but usually a poor work history, or they don't keep up their financial obligations, pay their debts. They'll rip people off and not care, but they'll talk them into the job and then not deliver on paying the bills. Demanding and promiscuous sexually. To them, sex equals power. So if you're their woman, you get a lot of flack if you say, no, I'm just not in the mood tonight. No, that's not acceptable. They either have a temper tantrum, or they're going to be angry at you and use something else against you. Very often there's signs of early behavioral problems or juvenile delinquency. Sometimes there's the adult criminal record of PFAs being filed, protection from abuse, stalking, or other things that women definitely need to be concerned about. Fast marriages to a wealthy partner. So again, if you're a wealthier woman and this guy comes up and he's charming and is the ideal partner and wants to marry you because he loves you so much, don't take it as a compliment, take it as a huge red flag and look deeper and give it more time. So that's the sociopath. And again, the psychopath is the sociopath who kills.
So the sociopath is kind of more hidden in a way, more conning, like you mentioned.
They're very conning. They are the ideal romantic partner initially. If you look at the series Dirty John, it's a great example, and it was a real story of a narcissist, sociopath who turned psychopath when he was losing her. He tried to kill the daughter that wanted him away from this wonderful lady. She was an architect and spiritual and worked hard and beautiful. You know, this is who he targeted, and he looked her up. And it's so easy to get a con artist in your life today, ladies. If you're single, you've got to know the do's and don'ts. It's extremely important. These background sites today list everything you own, how much you have in savings. I mean, that your whole life is exposed. And these people use these sites to look you up and check you out and see what you have. And then they'll target you, you know, so they want your last name and what's your birth date? You know, maybe we're the same zodiac. Well, boom, you know, they're looking to get your information just enough to check you out. And if they see something that's alluring and financially gratifying, they go after you. So if there's someone that is not of your same social status or economic status, I'd be very cautious about dating them. And these are dating skips, psychological tips, emotional, spiritual, that we did not learn. I did not learn it in my triple master's in applied clinical psychology. I did not learn them from my parents. You don't learn them from regular self-help books. This is the deeper stuff that people need to know to really attract an emotionally healthy, evolved, and conscious partner. Very important that you become that, because when you are, you're very centered and confident. You don't believe in all this fluff up front. You can look through and you see deeper. You're looking at characters and quality of someone versus chemistry, because everyone has learned, especially in America, I'm not sure about other countries, we grew up with fairy tales and romance movies. Kiss Prince Charming, and you wake up and you go away with him and you live happily after. You know, and that is just not true. You need to know a lot about this partner before you get intimately involved, and certainly before you marry.
I agree. We have our own trauma to go through, and that kind of blocking us to see what people are really after.
Well,
So
what is happening, Lynn, is what happens is that if you had, let's say, a distant and abusive father, right? He wasn't there much. Those who have abandonment issues are prone to codependency and love addiction. So consciously, they might say, this guy's not good for me. I know it, but they keep going back to the toxic partner. On average, through research, they say 7 times. They return to the toxic relationship 7 times. Why? Because the unconscious is craving love so much that they didn't get from a child that they'd rather get it from this toxic person who, of course, promises things will be better over and over again. And the sweet spot is about 10 days. That's from the cycle of abuse. 10 days that things are good and romantic and loving again. And then something else comes up that they're angry about, or they're disappointed in something else. So it is a very hard relationship to be in. And it's really important that you break free of this cycle and this toxic abuse, because there are wonderful people out there, but you've got to heal yourself. So your chemistry is not going to keep going to that Mr. Charmer who gives you that attention that you crave because you didn't get it as a child. When you're whole and you're evolved, meaning being your highest and your best self, and you're confident, you have great self-esteem, you trust spiritually, that there are great partners out there. The law of attraction, there are many people you can attract. All my clients become the choosers. We have many people we can choose, right? But it's just we want the right one. We'd rather be single than settle. That's just how we look at it.
For the audience out there, we don't want to make this fearful, but want this to be educational to help you make a decisions to do some work for yourself.
Right. Yeah. The good news is this is completely healable, right? You can fix this. This is the good news. So the important thing is you can't change what you don't understand, right? And when you're at the place where I was at one time, you don't know what you don't know. Like, wow, I'm a smart lady. I'm a great mom, a great friend. I've got all this going on in my life. Why am I attracting toxic guys? And no therapist could tell me. I'm a psychotherapist. I had 7 friends that, I went to. They're like, I don't know. It just ended up being the wrong one. Wrong. My chemistry was taking me to that person. Our chemistry lit up like fire. And I was attracting that and didn't know the other things to be looking for. This is when I had no idea what childhood trauma was. And it changes your entire life. And again, it changes your success levels in love, in parenting, in career. All my people, I've just got off another session where, when she came to me, she was struggling financially. Now she's at the top of her career and doing amazing. Because your energy is so good. You're so happy. You're clear of all this garbage that you've been carrying around, and the low self-esteem and the negative fear-based thoughts. Research shows 8 out of 10 people have 8 out of 10 negative fear-based thoughts about others or themselves. So we have to clear all that. We have to get rid of all that and have you live in conscious awareness, which we call living in the light, where there's happiness and energy and passion for what you do. And your whole life changes when you heal this. So that's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. You're starting at the beginning, the learning curve of what you don't know. And there is much to learn. My courses are 4 to 6 months. I have a 150-page notebook because there is much to teach you. And coaching is more of a teaching, solution-focused type of process, where therapy, you sit and you can talk about the same thing over and over and never get any solutions. Coaching is very solution-oriented, action-oriented, and educational. That's why I love this model so much.
Yeah, when you talk about the energy, the chemistry within us, which is the energy field that you're in, whatever energy field you're in subconsciously, that's what's going to pull you toward to. If it's negative, it's going to pull the negative. If it's positive, it's going to move you to a positive field. So the work is within to shift these energy fields so that you're no longer going to attract the old energy field that you kind of like sabotage your life.
Right. Unconsciously, yes.
Unconsciously, correct.
Yes.
So can you give us a suggestion to the single people out there that are looking for love?
Yeah, let's go a little deeper in who gets conned and why. Okay. So for the singles, if you're out there dating, they look for really good-hearted people, right? People that are in the helping professions, teachers, nurses, counselors, because we're good-hearted, forgiving people. So they look for that personality type. We're ones that always try to keep the peace and look on the brighter side of things. So if people make mistakes, we're loving, we're forgiving. They want to believe in the best of people. So once you love them and they start messing up, you keep thinking, well, I love him. It was great in the beginning. He says he's going to change. So you want to believe him. Okay. Spiritually, you want to believe them. We are usually faith-based spiritual people for the forgiveness piece. So they go after good-hearted people. They do crave the love, and a part of them do love them, but they cannot control the control piece or the desire for more, the desire for perfection, the control that they think you're so great that if you leave them, they become obsessive with jealousy and acting out. If you break up with them, any little sign of hope, they're back at their door. They usually try and come back into your life 3 or 4 times. They'll give you a little space. And God forbid, if you miss them and you call them back, they're right there. They're always trying to come back into your life. So you cannot give them any hope. You can't text them. They really do miss the attention. Or if you miss the attention, you know, that's your childhood traumas around your loneliness, which got him into your life in the first place. You've got to take care of that. They seek out rescuers, loyal and wealthy people who tend to enable them. They might have a higher tolerance for cheap trauma. They might have grown up with it and used to the yelling, ranting, and raving, and they're used to the toxic behavior. So those that keep this person in their life, if they're used to that toxic drama, they'll put up with it to have someone in their life. So you have to look at what childhood traumas are you bringing into this to keep putting up with it. Very often people who are in the helping profession do that because they wanted the help as children as well. It's funny. I remember saying to my mom in 8th grade, it's like, I want to go see a counselor. She goes, no one in this family will ever go see a counselor. It was like shameful. I said, then I'll grow up and become one. And I did, so, working around that shame. And it's like, no, this is nothing to be ashamed of. If your kids are asking you for help and they want to have help in your life, their lives, it's really important that you get it. I have turned around so many teenagers' lives from self-hate and loathing and suicidal tendencies and cutting or addiction. But if you don't catch it early, it's going to manifest and get so much worse. So if they are asking for help, get them help immediately with a good coach. If they've had trauma due to their one parent who even's not in the house anymore, get them a CCTP, which is a certified clinical trauma professional that specializes in love trauma. Because love relationship starts with love between mom and dad and the child and mom and the child and dad. So if that was not a healthy bond, you need somebody that really knows this work. It is very much a specialty area. Okay, so let's talk for our singles, some other success strategies to find and attract emotionally healthy love. First key is you must love yourself first. We do a whole wheel of life and we go around to see where you are. And then we start correcting those with goal setting and solid action steps to make sure those figures are up by 85, 90. Like I said, the client I just got off the phone with, she's all at 95%. Her life totally changed. She had 5, 10%, 15 when she started. Her whole wheel has just exploded. And she's just so happy. It's wonderful to see this transformation in 6 months. So you have to have self-confidence, good esteem, confidence levels, love yourself first. And you would never then settle for someone that has this type of emotional trauma or is trying to bring you into that. By the way, this time you start seeing the signs of emotionally toxic love is from 4 months to the year, or if the relationship becomes serious. So living together, engagement, marriage, or having a child, these are all times where that relationship could turn toxic, okay? You want to rid yourself of any cheap trauma in your life. If you have legal issues, you got to clean those up before you go date. If you have financial issues, don't look for someone to rescue you. That's going to be a controller. You want to control and take responsibility of your own life and get yourself out of financial debt, get your life together that way first. You've got to rid yourself of any negativity or fear-based thinking. No one wants your problems, and you don't want theirs. Only date when you're problem-free. You must be authentic on your dates, but do remember caveman brain has this attraction factor. We call it the 5-second rule. They know yes or no if they want to date you again. So the 5-second rule is it's important. It's shallow, but it's there. So always look your best, when you're going out on your date. If there's any men listening in the audience, women need security and safety. We are the child bearers, and our cave woman braid that's in our old brain. That's what we crave the most. So men have to understand that, and women have to understand the attraction for the caveman brain, because he is there to procreate the race. So it's two things that we have to understand is real. Be your authentic self. And if you're not that love map for him, or that love match, that connection that he wants, no big deal. No, just say next and move on. It doesn't matter much to you. You're looking for the qualities anyway. You're looking for that quality in somebody. Know the questions to ask and the questions and comments not to ask or say. Super important. My clients have a list of 24 questions. We casually ask them. We know by date 1 or 2 if these are the right people to be with. And if not, then we just keep going to the next one. The world is abundant. There's plenty of people to date. But you want to know, and definitely you want to know before you get intimate with anybody, if this person is emotionally healthy and stable. And then the things you never talk about. You don't talk about sex, even if they bring it up. Say, I just met you. I'm not going to discuss my sexual preferences with you on the first date. Like, no. Money, you don't talk about money, problems with your kids, problems with your ex, and never, ever send any sexy photos. They could use this against you if they're a sociopath. Through extortion. If they ask for a shot of you after the 5th or 6th date, send them a nice shot of you in a cocktail dress. But never, ever send any sexy photos. You never know where they're going to end up. So those are some tips for the singles.
What are the questions to ask? Like you mentioned,
there's 24 of them.
Can you
There's a lot of them.
Can you give a few?
I'll give you one example. You just calmly ask her, tell me about your mom and dad. If they were my age, I would ask, are they still living? So here's an example of one of my ladies in her 50s that asked that question. And that sounds very conversational, right? Do they live near you? They live in Florida, where I'm from. So she asked this question, and he goes, well, that's an interesting story. I hate my mom. Boom, mother hater. Okay, she knew right away. And she just says, oh, well, why is that? Well, most of my life, she was an alcoholic. Now we know trauma number 5 is there, or number 1 is there, growing up with a heavy addiction. She was a yeller and a screamer, trauma number 2. Screamed at me whenever she was drunk, and I really had a hard time with her. And you can say, wow, I'm really sorry to hear that. Did she become sober? Did that change? And he goes, well, she's in a nursing home now, and, I wish I didn't have to pay that bill. One day I won't. So I see her just because I have to. So that was a comment around his mother. And she goes, well, how about your dad? Were things better because your dad could help you out with all that? He goes, well, he was an alcoholic too, but he was more quiet because she was the one yelling and screaming most of the time and is pretty distant from me. So he was active with me in football, and we do camping trips, and that you can see that relationship healed. And there was some forgiveness around that. And I said, she said, oh, okay, well, that's good. And he goes, yeah, he died and I do miss him. I said, yeah, that's a shame. So you get the information. If you know the traumas, it's like boom, 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 boom. But in his later years, he quit when I was about 13, thank God. And finally, we did a lot of activities together. And I think he did that to get us out of the house. If you know the personality types that are toxic, and it's funny, she says, wow, he's really a gentleman. He offered me to eat. I don't know. I might give him a second chance. I said, well, all the rules. Ultimately, it's up to you what you choose to do. But I give it some real serious thought. She's going to have a lot of expectation and perfectionism. So she thought about, she goes, you know what? I'm just starting to date. I'm not going to just settle on this, and I'm going to keep dating some other options. So he called her for another date, and she says, I think you're a really nice person, but I just don't think we're quite a match. And he starts screaming at her. And she goes, I wish you the best. Goodbye, good luck, and God bless, and hangs up on him because we never have to listen to a toxic phone call, which she learned. And she goes, Riana was right. There it was. Rejection from a woman, right? From a guy who hates his mother, who always felt rejected from his mom. That's what you're going to get. So, the patterns are so solid and true, and they happen over and over and over again. So, my ladies always are, and men are always looking to go with the science and the research.
Okay, that's great for the singles. How about the people who are in the relation or who are married?
Okay, so I work with couples as well. And it's interesting. I work with couples that come to me together. And right now I'm working with a gentleman who's married, but wasn't sure if he wants to stay married. He was fighting a lot. He goes, we went to couples counseling for a year and things are only getting worse. She doesn't want to switch from the couples counselor. She wants to stay there. I feel it's not working to the point where I think I'm going to leave this marriage. So I want to work with you as a single. I'm like, let's do it. So I said, if at any time you want to upgrade to a couples program, you can. The couples program is called Relationship Rescue, but we worked with him as a single. And it's very interesting because by the second session, he's there, you know what, Riana, I'm the one with the most problems. I'm a narcissist. I'm the one that's not emotionally healthy. And maybe if I can change this, I'll have a better marriage. And I said, I love that, that you were recognizing this from the information, from the education. So now we know exactly what we're working on. And he's all my people are an excellent student because they invest in themselves to learn this. So he was so excited and he just got done his 6th session and he's there. I have never felt better. By the third session, the wife was around the house and she goes, tell Riana, thank you. Like you are changing so much so quick. I can't believe it. But I still never met her. Right. So she's happier because he's doing things differently. He was so codependent on her. She doesn't make me happy. I said, it's not her job to make you happy. It's your job to make you happy and to create the life you desire. And in that, then you re-attract your wife. I said, are you the same man when she was attracted to you? Goes, no, I put on weight. I'm not getting dressed. I'm not showering. I'm in my sweats. I'm watching 3 hours of TV before I even go off to work. But he was very successful. So he totally changed. I said, well, let's get you back because you're going to want you back, whether you stay in this marriage or go out and be a single. You want the best version of you back out there or in this marriage. Because who you are right now, you're pushing her for sex. You're getting pissed off and yelling at her for sex. She's not attracted to you. We have to get to the bottom of why this is occurring. Because, oh my God, it makes so much sense, right? So these are the things that we do. It's a back and forth, very personalized program. But anyway, so his marriage is already really improving. He is so much happier. He even got an amazing business deal last week. And he goes, you said the business goes up. You're right. Oh my God, because I'm happier. I'm attracting more people. Yes, that's how it works. Okay. So for my couples, saying I always have is it's you and me against the world. So you have to put your partner first. Okay. That doesn't mean codependent, obsessive.
Before we go into that, can I just jump back to this case here?
Okay, sure.
Let me reverse the case. Instead of the husband coming to you, but the wife comes to you, how do you help her?
Same thing. Well, like I said, most people have unhealed childhood trauma. Mm-hmm. So what in her attracted her to him? Was it codependency? Was she looking at him to support her? What is her childhood traumas? I start with everybody there. That tells me then where I go. This is very individualized. It's like a puzzle. Everybody is their own puzzle. It's not the same thing for every person that I see. It really depends what their traumas are, partner A, partner B, what the relationship traumas are, which is the third entity. So I'm treating 3 people there. And my job, if they're coming to me individually, is to heal them because they are the one in front of me. However, what happens is then, because I'm teaching them ideal relationships to be the best selves, either that partner is really attracted to them or they feel so wonderful about themselves, they decide they don't want that toxic partner who's not coming. Because I had a couple like that. I'll call her Anne. She came to me in her 70s. After 40 years of marriage, she wanted a divorce, saying, I can't stand it. He cheats on me all the time, and I know it. He's even slept in my family house with another woman. I mean, obviously, this guy was very toxic. I said, will he come to coaching? No, he refuses. Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make you feel phenomenal, sexy again, to the point where you're confident enough to leave this toxic marriage, or he's going to know something's up and you're ready to leave, and he's going to get scared and want to come in.
Yeah.
So we're just going to do you right now. So that's what we did. I dressed her differently. Instead of frumpy, she lost some weight. She looked amazing. You know, I was a stylist for a large department store, so I taught her more alluring ways to dress. She felt good about herself. We did all the childhood trauma from her life, and she was really about ready to leave him. And then I get a call. Is this Riana? Yes. Well, this is Mark, Anne's husband. Hey, how are you? Great. Do you think I can come in? I said, you are always invited. Yes, you can come in. So I healed that marriage. He was very narcissistic, sociopathic. He was able to get beyond all those traits because he said at this point in his life, he didn't want to start over dating and finding another woman. He was becoming very attracted to her. But she was like, not even interested in him anymore. It's like, I'm doing my thing. Like, you know, whatever you need to do, you do. And then he knew that she could have been out and very successful on her own. They sold that old house that had all the bad karma. They bought a beautiful house in a very nice neighborhood, and they do live happily ever after. It's not like a shameful thing. We're going to coaching. No, because what you learn is so exciting and life altering. And I mean, fantastic lives, not just mundane marriages. No.
Yeah.
No. So it's really quite wonderful to see it.
Okay. So we can continue now.
For couples. Okay. All right. So the first thing was you and me against the world, right? Having this philosophy. Second, I teach a lot around balance, holistic mind, body, spirit. And one thing is balance triangles. So there's many triangles that I discuss with you, but for the couple, it's me, you, and us. So your individual time, partner A and B, that's your work time, exercise, friendship time. But that C, that third piece of us, is often not as important as the other two sides. So therefore, the relationship becomes unbalanced. You have to make sure you invest enough time with your partner. I say dating at least twice a week, if not 3 times. That could be a day date, a night date. I'm not talking spending a lot of money in fancy dinners. I'm talking about really wonderful, energy, right? Just going out of the house and spending some good quality time. That could be a hike and then go have a picnic. So it's not about how much you spend on the date. It's the quality time with the date. Be what you want to attract, right? All of those of you in relationships, ask, how close am I to that person when he was attracted to me? And if you're not close, do what you need to do to get close. Be that person again. Be positive, be outgoing, get dressed, do your hair and makeup, ladies. I mean, like, do what you need to do to keep yourself alluring. Be emotionally healthy. Each partner has to be emotionally healthy. You can't have one emotionally healthy, evolved person, evolved meaning being your highest and your best self. You can't have one person like that and the other one totally sabotaging all the time. It's not going to work. And if they don't want to do the work, then you have to ask, would I be happier outside of this relationship if I leave this relationship? For couples, your top 5 to 6 requirements should be met. That means, where do you want to retire? And this is for singles too. Like if it's a single in the younger generation, I work with a lot of millennials who want marriage, family, and kids. One of the first questions are you a man that's wants marriage and children one day? They're like, well, yeah, maybe. Or if she really wants them, I guess so. That's a no. If your requirement is you definitely want marriage and to have kids, then you need to have a man that says, oh yeah, I definitely want kids. I don't see my life being complete if I wasn't a father. That's a yes. Okay. So you really need to know what your requirements are and the types of answers you should be getting. So in a relationship, your requirements are met. Like one of mine was always, you must be addiction free. I don't want to be with anyone that ever has an addiction. So if there's an addiction, I see that over the first 3 to 4 months, then I'm not going to be with them anymore. You have to have your requirements met. Where do you want to retire? Do you like world travel? Having those requirements met. Emotional needs. Is there affection, loyalty, thoughtfulness, functional needs? Are you a good communicator? Are you a great co-parent? Are you reliable, trustworthy? Are you an equal partner around the house, helping and cleaning and cooking? These are functional needs. Your wants and desires match. Okay. And the vision for your future matches. If one person loves snow and wants to be in Colorado and the other, like me, loves blue oceans and palm trees, I'm not going to want to be with someone who wants to be in the snow all winter long. No, I want to be on the boat in the middle of the ocean, right? So you have to find someone that has that same vision. And most importantly, the research was showing two people that are faith-based and practice faith together have the best success ratio of a happy and long-lasting relationship. So those are just some, and I talk a lot more about them, of course, in my coaching and in my Love Beyond Your Dreams book. Also, you both have to have the mindset for success. And that's what the one I talk about in the Live Beyond Your Dreams book, from fear and doubt to personal power, purpose, and success. So they are meant to go together. They're called sister books because one is about success in life. The other is success in love relationships. So they are meant to go together, and they are both equally important to creating that life you desire and having the love that you deserve.
Yes, it's all about love.
Well, it is about self-love first.
Yes.
And knowing what's emotionally healthy. It's about education, knowledge. It's not just about let's have chemistry and fall in love.
Right.
It's a whole lot more than that. Love is a feeling, of course. And it's also a commitment.
Yeah, it's not just a feeling, it's a commitment as well.
Yes.
And which requires a lot of work and consistency.
I have a formula for my people. It's trust equals consistency over time. So the more when you're dating, that person is consistent to their word, their action, their deeds over time, that builds your trust. And for women, that sense of security. And, as long as you're seeing that consistency, as soon as the consistency breaks, if it's that 4 to 1 year time frame, or you get engaged and that person starts showing moodiness, anger, control, it doesn't get better. It gets worse. So trust equals consistency over time. Too many women are jumping into intimate relationships. One of the reasons is they lack the self-esteem to think that they can tell a man, wait, this is the body temple. I don't sleep around. If all us women did that, men wouldn't be expecting sex on the 3rd date or a 5th date, which to me, by the way, I think is a man-made rule, if you're not sleeping with someone. And it's like you barely know someone after the 3rd date. Why would you be intimate with them? Sure, they're not going to turn you down. They'll take your sex or cooking, but that's a form of manipulation trying to get a guy. Yeah. Is that what you really want? Or do you really want to put in the time to make sure this person's worth it and not give yourself away? That's self-esteem. That's self-love. You choose when, not he.
So it's about rebuilding the skill again, or removing the childhood trauma and reconnecting with your authentic self and your self-worth, your self-love, and practice all those things. And I'm very grateful that you're here. Do you have anything to say?
If we learn anything from COVID, the time is very short. Don't settle in your life. Create that life you desire and have the love you deserve. You can certainly do it. The world is really abundant. You just need to know what to do. If I can help you, reach out to me. My website is rianamilne.com. I have plenty of free resources on there, a free ebook, free book chapter downloads of each Live and Love Beyond Your Dreams, the first 60 pages, 4 free love tests for singles and couples to analyze how you're doing in dating or in this love relationship. And my podcast is free. It's called Lessons in Life and Love with Coach Riana Milne. And I have 106 shows out there on my YouTube channel, a total of 250 audios and videos there for free education. So get to know me. I'm here if you need any help.
Great. Thank you so much, Riana, for
You're welcome.
your time. So I'll see you guys in the next episode.